Hello, welcome to Hidden Existence. Tonight, got a great guest. It's Lee from Cryptid Myths and Mysteries with Lee McNew. How you doing, Lee? Are you okay?
Doing good, Danielle. Doing good. How are you?
Good. I'm good. Hello to everyone in the chat. Just to let you all know, I've started a new channel. I've put the link in the description. It's called Hidden Existence TV because there's going to be a variety of things that I will be doing on there, which includes some of my walks, some of my sunset beach walks, and looking at local history, architecture. There's a lot of stuff that goes on in my town. Some of you have been interested in that, and so if you want to carry on seeing me do that sort of stuff, check out the link in the description, and I'll see you over there soon. So Lee, you've been sort of quiet, and then now you seem to be back. Where have you been, and what's the next stage for your channel and what you've been doing?
Well, I stepped away from it a little while because I guess I just needed a break. I was wondering where I was going with my investigations and my research. I got sick. I had hurt myself, and then I got sick, and it just pushed it back. And the more I thought about it, the more I thought maybe I just won't do it anymore. And one day I was feeling better, getting up, moving around, went back out to one of my old research sites, and I'm like, man, I miss this a lot. And I put the video out there, and a few people said, where you been, man? What are you doing? When are you gonna make more videos? And I'm like, yeah, maybe I should. And I was on the fence of what I wanted to do with it, because the longest time I was like, it was all cryptids. I felt like I was chasing my tail, what type of evidence I was bringing to the table and whatnot. And I got to the point to where I'm like, I really don't care at this point. As long as I'm raising some type of awareness, that's all that matters to me. And I'm not out here trying to prove nothing to anybody. If I can actually raise some semblance of doubt in your mind that this thing doesn't exist, I've done my job. And Cryptids, Myths, and Mysteries is going in the direction where I'm exploring everything paranormal now. It's just not cryptids. Because that's where I started out. My roots were in ghost hunting, if you will. I've had my own experiences going way back. So that's what I intend to do. I've got a mental hospital it's been abandoned for quite a number of years, that has been sought after by quite a few bunches. Ghost hunters from sci-fi has actually been there. And I'm going to try and set up a tour of that place for overnight.
Sounds interesting. So what are some of the experiences that you've had in the paranormal sense?
Well, my first experience it happened when I was probably about, I want to say 7 or 8. It was late at night. Me and my sister, we were living in a little single wide trailer, mobile home. In our bedroom, we had to share a bedroom. We had bunk beds. I was sleeping on the top bunk. We had a nightlight in the room. And I heard something in the hallway. I woke up, and I was, what is that? I crept down to the foot of the bed, and I looked down, and I saw what looked like my sister in the hallway. And I'm like, sis, what are you doing? Are you okay? And this girl just leaned, kind of looked really sad, looked down, leaned against the wall, and disappeared. It freaked me out. And I heard rustling underneath me, and I'm like, I was really freaking out at this point because I was afraid of the dark. And I looked down under the bed, and there's my sister. She's asleep. She's in the bed. So what in the world was that?
That's strange, isn't it?
It was. I don't know. And I feel like I've been touched. I don't know. It kind of runs in the family, I think.
Right. In that house particular, was there stuff, lots of stuff going on? Or
Not really, not that I know of.
right.
That one time, I'd had hold on a second.
I'm just going to put Lee's channel's link in the description, in the chat now. Thanks, Andy Gone Fishing. You and me both, Lee. We've got a new sub on our other channel.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Thank you.
Okay. So nothing else in that house, and anything after that?
Well, there was a point in time where there's a lot of things. I'm probably going to reveal it now that I don't talk about much at all. When I was about 14 or 15, a buddy of mine convinced me to go to church with him. And it was like my second or third time going with him. And they called for people who wanted to come up and get saved. And at that point, I felt something move me, and I went up and I knelt before the altar and dedicated my life to Jesus at that point, And for whatever reason, a couple of days after that, something happened, and I started going through some type of breakdown. Weird dreams, night terrors, really. There was like a week I was out of school because I couldn't sleep. Panic attacks, the whole nine, for on the entire week. Seeing stuff in my dreams. I was under attack, really. I guess they didn't want me going to the light side. I guess I don't know. I don't know. It's to this day I have a hard time dealing with it. So I usually don't. But it put that notion in my mind after I was able to get past it. There's something else out there. There's more to this world than what we see. And I've been kind of looking at that ever since in one form or another. Many years later, me and my former wife, we had moved into a house at, not too far from my mom and dad. I'd gotten a new job, and things seemed to be going all right. But after, I don't know, the third or fourth week, things started happening. Doors, there was slamming of doors, things falling off shelves, phantom knocks in the house. It was kind of hard to deal with. It was almost poltergeist type activity.
Mm-hmm.
But there was some type of malevolence to it because it wouldn't. We had two kids in the house at the time. My stepson and a friend of his who's going through a rough patch of her own. And I got to thinking about it, that a lot of it happened while they were there. But it was happening while I was there too, but it wasn't quite as bad. To this day, I don't know exactly what happened, what was going on. But in 2004, I was at work. It was in January. I was talking to my sergeant. I was working for a police department then. I got a phone call. My dispatch said, Lee, you've got a call. It's pretty urgent. And it was my sister on the phone. She told me, she said, Lee, you've got to come home. Your house is on fire. Um, I didn't know what to do. I said, okay, I'm on my way. I stepped out of dispatch. I looked at my sergeant. I said, dude, I got to go. I got to go home. My house is on fire. By the time I got there, it was fully engulfed, and we lost damn near everything.
Wow.
And it was the same thing. It was the same house we were having all the activity in. Whatever spiritual force was going on there, it worked on everybody. It worked on everybody there. It was the final nail in the coffin of my marriage. We split up after that. The insurance gave us the ability to rebuild the house, and I wound up moving back in it. Nothing happened after that. There was nothing wrong. Nothing wrong with that house after that.
So what do you think it was attached to, the kids then?
It may have been. It may have been. I don't know.
And how are they now? Did they have anything? Did they experience anything after that?
Well, I don't know about any type of spiritual battles they had, with anything like that. But I know my stepson had problems with drug addiction, and he had a rough way to go for many years, in and out of rehab, in and out of jail. He had spent many years in jail after that. It was rough for him, and thank the Lord, he's doing a lot better now. Yeah, we still stay in touch every now and then, but he's doing a lot better. But as far as anything else happening, he did tell me though one time, I was at work. He said he was laying in bed, and he'd happened to sit up, and he saw what looked like me standing in his doorway. It was just a shadow, and he called out my name, and then he said, you just disappeared. So I don't know.
Oh, that's interesting. There's seems to be something when you say you touched. How do you mean like that? You feel like your perceptive stuff, or
perception? Yeah, I guess that's the way to describe it. I guess that's a good way to describe it. That's my theory about it anyway. A lot of people I believe that once someone has a paranormal experience, significant enough to touch them emotionally in some way, I believe they're more than likely to have another one, and another one. I've had a bunch. I'm kind of giving you the Cliff Notes version of some of the stuff. It's just a lot of stuff. This weekend, I'm just going to go ahead and tell you now, I'm going to do a YouTube live with my sister. When we were kids, we saw a UFO.
right?
And I've told some of my story already, but I want to get her version. Because, there are two people standing together, seeing the same thing, but perceive it entirely different. So I want to kind of test that theory and see what she has to say about it.
Yeah, that'd be interesting to hear. How long ago was that? Quite a while.
Yeah, I was probably about 10 or 11, maybe. Yeah.
So quite a while, or not quite a while.
Quite a while. Yeah.
10 years ago.
10 years.
Yeah. So perceptive. What do you think? You've picked up things in the woods when you've been out? Have you had that feeling? Have you had a Sasquatch sighting?
I have not seen one, but I've had enough interaction with them. I believe that I don't need to see them now. I don't need to see them. I had one instance, I did an outing. We were camping out. I was camping out. I planned to have a couple of people with me. My brother was supposed to come. He couldn't show up. My nephew was supposed to come. He couldn't show up. So I said, I'll just do it by myself. Went the first time. Probably won't be the last. I'll get out here and I'll do my thing, camping by myself. A few times during the day, I should have picked up on some subtle clues about how the night was going to go. There were a couple of times when the woods just got completely silent. The wind stopped blowing, the crickets stopped chirping, the birds stopped singing. It was just quiet. And it'd be like that for a couple of minutes, then they'd start up again. And it happened like 2 or 3 times that day. And I'd been there probably since about 10 o'clock that morning. And as the sun went down, I started to feel a little bit an uneasiness. But I got to thinking, I said, dude, you're just scaring yourself. Just quit. It'll be okay. It's not your first rodeo. So I calmed my nerves then. I was doing my own thing. Heard an owl off in the distance. And then I heard whippoorwills. Now, normally you might hear 1 or 2 whippoorwills, and when you hear them, they're a good ways off from one another. Now, these whippoorwills were all around me, and they were loud. I mean, really loud.
Whippoorwills, I take it they're whippoorwills. Are they a bird or something?
The bird, yeah, they're a bird.
Okay. Right.
They just, and the sound they make sounds just like their name. It's
okay.
And but it was like it was through a megaphone. Like these things were like 500 pounds, and probably I would say maybe 300 or 400 yards up the creek from me, I heard a yelp, a whoop. It was, and this is as close as I can get to mimicking it. It was like a whoa, and it was hella loud. It was extremely loud. And I'm like, oh my God, what in the world? Now, every time I go out, I've got a sidearm with me. This particular time, I had my rifle with me because I said I wasn't taking any chances. I'm telling you, at a certain point, this rifle, I might as well have been carrying a stick, a twig. That's about how safe I felt with it. I don't know how much you're into the mind speak thing, the whole telepathy, how much you know about it, but that night I had my first encounter with it. I had the image of that bird in my head. I've felt evil before. This wasn't evil. It was just mad. And it spoke to me. And the only way and I tried to explain this to my wife. I told her it's like, it was something that was like how a computer, they process binary code and interpret it. And then, everything's there's zeros and ones. And next thing you know, you've got a picture. And I said, basically, that's a best way I can describe to you how it was. It wasn't really speaking to me. It was what my mind interpreted it was saying. It was telling me, get out now. And I did. I left my camping gear. I left everything. I got in my Jeep and I left. I didn't come back till the next morning. So, yeah.
And so, that wasn't your instinct saying that to you. It was something telling you. No, something external.
Right. It was something that was totally different. Totally different.
Do you think that's Bigfoot, or could that be something else?
I've kind of struggled with that. Um, the answer is I really don't know. I can sit here and say it was, but I don't know.
Is it possible that, I mean, I know we don't know the answers. This is just talking.
Right.
But all those times when people are seeing Bigfoot in a different light, as in with strange stuff going on and stuff, is it possible that that actually isn't what they're saying isn't Bigfoot and it's something completely different? And Bigfoot is something separate, a creature, flesh and blood.
Right.
There's so many tales of each side, isn't there? Not
There
tales,
really
but
is.
stories, and it's so confusing.
Yeah. And to be honest with you, that right there is the reason why I'm taking Cryptids, Myths, and Mysteries in the direction I'm taking it in. So I can explore every avenue and enlighten myself more than anything, because I still have questions. But the first time I had my experience with what I think was Bigfoot, I was camping on my mom and dad's place. They had like 78 acres, mountain terrain. I was on the ridge, I was on the very top, and I was camping there. And this is my third day there. The next day, I was tearing down camp and I was calling it a day. I was going to be going. I had a fire going. I had my Coleman lantern set up, and I was relaxed. I was chill out. And I was just noticing just the fire crackling. And behind me, I heard, and there's no way on God's green earth I can imitate this one. I've tried. It started out with a roar to a howl to a scream, and it was loud. And it was enough to where it made me jump up out of my chair. I had a little 32 automatic for snakes. That's what I had, and I'm thinking that was huge. Whatever that was huge. And I stood up and I looked around. I grabbed my flashlight. I'm like, what in the world was that? And I heard it again. It did that 3 times. Um, I went down off the mountain and got my courage up, and I went back. I actually went back and spent the rest of the night there after that. But I didn't know what that was. And this happened probably in 2007. Is when this happened. So 2007 that happened. A few years later, probably about 7 years later, I'm remarried. Um, my son had just been born. It hadn't been maybe, he'd probably about 3 months old. My wife was at work. I was at home with him. I took the dog out, and where we were living at the time, we were living in a house in a rural part of the county, and down next to the railroad tracks where below us, I heard the same thing. I heard it again. And this is like probably 15, 20 miles as the crow flies from my mom and dad's place. And I wasn't long hollering at my dog and getting his butt inside and getting mine inside too. So that was the second time. And around, it was probably 2016, just on a goof, bouncing through YouTube, and I found Sasquatch Chronicles. And I started listening to him, and he had the Sierra sounds on there. He Ron Moore had Sierra sounds on there, and then he went to the Ohio Howl, and there was a combination of all of it in there. It wasn't exactly the same thing, but I'm thinking to myself, is that what I heard? Was that a Bigfoot? And I'll be honest with you, for the longest time, I thought Bigfoot was just a legend, really. If it existed, I was a stereotypical person who believed it probably was just in a Pacific Northwest somewhere, hidden, and there was only one. I had no idea. I don't know. And then the more that's at that point, that's when I got into it. I started researching everything, but it led me down a rabbit hole. At first, I was in the flesh and blood camp, and I remember watching this. It was a documentary, and then this guy started talking about portals and everything like that. And at that time, I rolled my eyes and I laughed out loud. I said, "My God, this dude is nuts. This no way, no way. This is just an animal." Not anymore. I don't. I think that there's probably, is it flesh and blood? Yeah, I totally believe it's flesh and blood. Is there something more to it? I think there is. I think there's a lot more to it than people want to admit to.
Mm. Well, it's certainly a mystery, isn't it? It just doesn't make sense.
Right.
I understand what you mean, though. When you start looking into it, you think it's some creature, flesh and blood creature that's lives in the woods, or is elusive, and
Right.
you start hearing things, and you kind of, I think everybody goes around that sort of woo count to the flesh and blood, to the back. You're like, what? Don't. So,
Right.
what is that? What's going on there? Why can't we separate the unusual? Because some of it, I think, could have logical answers,
Mm-hmm.
and some of it can be the perception of the experience.
Right.
There is a lot of that in there, and sometimes you want to go with what you want it to be.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm not saying people don't experience things, but there's so much out there. It's very hard to. It's like muddy water.
Right.
It's really hard to get some clarity on what this is all about, because I believe there's something also going on. But really, where do we start by
Right.
kind of clear this up? It's difficult, isn't it?
It is. It once again, it always comes back to perception. How do we perceive this? What type of experience did we have, and how is our mind going to wrap around it? How are we going to explain this? Me personally, and once again, I was talking to my wife about this, and I told her, I said, I'm not trying to convince anybody that this thing exists. But if I did, the first thing I would not do is creep over into how everybody calls the woo camp. I start out with the flesh and blood theories first, because it's so much easier for somebody to recognize that. It's so much easier for someone to accept that than to accept the fact that there may be a creature out there that can just up and disappear. It's just,
If someone was to ask you, what is Bigfoot? And you can tell it, you can only tell them what you really know. What would you say? That you're 100%. I know we're not 100% on anything, but if you really had to like break it down and go, what do we actually know? What would you say?
well, I would tell them that it was some type of close to a relic hominid. It's closer to a relative to us than even the orangutan or the mountain gorilla. Uh, it's out there, um, and it remains hidden. And if they ask why do they remain hidden so much, I've mentioned this before. I believe they are, and I call them force people. I mean, they've got a language. Uh, they they have a society. They I believe they have a social structure. Why not call them a people? I'm just going to give them that label. And they are on the opposite end of the spectrum from us, where we have excelled with science and technology. They have excelled with nature. They don't need a smartphone and GPS to get around. They just know. And as far as being able to hide, I think they have the natural God given ability to do that. I actually made a video about that. I filmed 3 deer. They just disappeared into the woods. They were there and then they weren't. It was that easy for them to just disappear.
Mm.
I mean, and I'm like, how hard would it be for Bigfoot to do that? If they're covered in hair. I've heard Carrie talk about the hair follicles, how they can refract light. Yeah, I don't see why not.
Mm.
Natural camouflage.
Yeah. But I've interviewed people who've seen them appearing, shimmering, oil and water,
Right.
and the mind speak and the healing. So it's just such a mystery. It's just such a,
Yeah.
I think we all get to that point where you think, I've had enough of this, don't you? And you just throw everything up in the air, go, that's it, I'm done. And then you're slowly drawn back into it. It's frustrating, I mean, you don't live for long, do you? But,
Right.
it's
But
always
I look at everybody else out here. There's a lot of people out here now that's doing the same thing I've been doing, and more power to them. The more people we've got out here that can bring some more evidence to the table, do it. I'm just puttered along. I'm going to see what I can find. I actually believe I'd gotten pretty close to them at one point. My whole theory was to habituate the place I was going to, not with gifts or anything like that, but just with my scent, just being there. And I was there 2 or 3 times a week, in some form or fashion, so they would know I was there. And it got to the point where I don't believe they were even trying to hide their wood knocks from me anymore. I knew. Now I can't say I know that. That's the wrong word to say. I feel that they work. Not work. How can I put this? They have almost a relationship with some of the other creatures out there, crows and ravens, to be precise. If at some point, and I've had a couple of times, I got this on video too, the woods went entirely quiet, the first ones out there, crows and ravens. And whenever they got close to me, they sounded off. Now, when I was growing up, I was a hunter. And I noticed this a lot. Crows were, nature's early warning system. They tattle on you quick. And but I found it strange when I actually started looking at it from every angle. It's quiet. There's nothing. There's no other birds out here. You can't hear any insects. The wind's still, and the only animal out here moving around is these crows and these ravens. And it wasn't long after that I started putting 2 and 2 together. I did a show. I did a video where I was following wood knocks, and it almost sounded like a woodpecker, but it wasn't. And I was trying to get as close as I could to it, and I sat down on a log I set my camera down. I'm just sitting there waiting, just being quiet. And I heard the raven come overhead, and wasn't maybe 5 minutes later, not even that, there was a huge crash right in front of me. And I'm like, oh, what is this? And I figured it was probably time for me to just back out. Maybe I'm getting a little too close. They're not ready yet. So
When you say, evidence, what's worth getting it now? Do you think, to you? I mean, photos. Where are you at with photos? Is it worth trying to get a blurred photo and then tell people there's a Bigfoot there? There might be, but say I'm just taking pictures of birds and I take a blurred photo of a blackbird.
right,
It's not really gonna, if it's sat in a tree behind some leaves, it might be there, it might not be there, but is it really worth anything? Are these photos? I know this can be context that goes with the photo. Someone could have been in there and experiencing that, but to the person not involved in that photo, I think that it can create, there's those like me that don't want to look at those photos, not because I'm being disrespectful, but I don't see anything in them. I'd rather hear about the story. And whereas a lot of people love to study photos like that, and I feel there's a bit of a waste of time. One that because I believe there is a Bigfoot out there, I don't need to see. If I want to see a photo, it's not going to be those.
right.
I want to see something clear. Or so, where you at with now? What evidence is the worth putting time into getting that is going to be, have some sort of value to it, for everybody, not just for the person who's captured it or collected it?
Honestly, it's hard to say. That some people put more value and stock in some things than others. Me personally, I'm just filming what I see. You're going to hear what I hear when I'm out there, and and then I'm going to leave it up to the observer. But quite frankly, you're not there, not really, and it's hard. It's hard to. And I thought about this. It's one of the reasons what kept me away. What evidence am I going to bring to the table? What am I out there doing? It's hard. And I did a video about that too, blob squatches and whatnot. And I do apologize for that one. I will say that because I was a little hard on people about that. And it kind of rubbed me the wrong way because at that point in time, I was trying to get that evidence. And now I'm not. Easy now. Sorry.
That's all right. I've got one here. I think, there's a lot of value in just pushing awareness and keeping it real.
Yeah.
And doing that for people as well.
Yeah.
Show an example, because there's a lot of channels out there in it for the entertainment value. And I'm not talking about podcasts and things like that. I'm just saying there's some channels on YouTube that there's nothing there, but you kind of led to believe there might be. I'm not singling anything out, but there's no sort of education value to it or awareness value to this Bigfoot thing, which is important for newbies. I think that come into this subject who, just like us, I was taken in by quite a few things, and I wasted, maybe a good few months looking at a lot of stuff that wasn't real, that wasn't true. And I'm going to cough now, sorry. So yeah, what do you feel about that these newbies need guiding, and maybe that might change the way we look for this thing or our perception of this thing?
Well, I'm right there with you. Like I said, the evidence is, and as much as I hate to say it, if you're looking for evidence to prove the existence of this creature to the scientific community, I believe Grover Krantz was correct. To this day, I believe he was correct in stating that the only way that the scientific community will accept the existence of a Sasquatch, Bigfoot, whatever you want to call it, is if you bring them an entire body. I think that's the only way they'll do it. They shut everything down. I mean, Melba Ketchum had her DNA study and it was shut down.
Mm.
It's like, where do we go from here?
Mm.
But if people have a lot of people have an innate curiosity for it. They gravitate toward the unknown, ooh, this is spooky, ah, la, la, and then they get into it. And that was all of a sudden, these people develop an interest in it. And I feel it would be disingenuous, and that's on my part, to mislead somebody by telling them a bunch of hooey. I'm just going to tell you what I know, what I've found, and show you oddities. When you're walking through the woods, if you're taking a hike, the tree bends, the breaks. Why they do it, I have no idea. I have no earthly idea. I know in my area, usually a tree break will point toward a direction of water. That's all I know normally. Bends, and I'm not talking natural growth. I'm talking a tree probably about 3 or 4 inches in diameter that's perfectly bowed. The top of the tree looks like it's been buried in the ground, but it's not. Weirdest thing ever. No snaps, no crinkles in the bark, nothing like that. It's just bent, like it was heat treated that way.
Mm.
How do you explain that? You can't. It's just an oddity, and it's something they say Bigfoot does. Could it have been Bigfoot? Maybe, maybe not. You know, we just don't know. But
No.
it does show me that they're in the area, because that's where I've been. It's what I've noticed. Footprints. I've found several, but it's the oddest thing. I'll find one distinct track. It's like, where's the rest of them?
Mm.
You know, where are the rest of them? One distinct track, and but I try to show this stuff to people, to give them to like you say, raise awareness. If they've got that question in their mind, maybe they'll be a little bit more vigilant when they're out in the woods and not thinking they're the top predator out there.
Mm. I mean, are you a hunter as well? Do you go out?
Yeah.
I guess most of you.
I haven't hunted in many a year, but I still hunt.
Yeah.
The skill's still there, and I use that while I'm out there.
Well, for me, I mean, we're not hunters over here. We're not brought up with hunting. But once I start getting into Bigfoot, suddenly I'm not just looking at the eye level when I'm going through a wood. When you start looking up, down, and then you see lots, don't you? You know,
Yes.
that was something I learned, and now I never look at eye level. I'm always looking just naturally now, because you just never know what's out there.
That's one thing. I don't try to preach too much, but I do preach that one. You look up. Remind yourself to look up. For the simple fact, man really has no natural airborne predators. So only time you're looking up is if you see or hear a plane or a helicopter or something like that. So look up. You'll be surprised at what you might see. So, yeah, you're absolutely right. They hit the nail on the head there.
What about ground glyphs? How are you doing, Urban Grassman? He mentions ground glyphs, all the connected stuff. Are they connected? Do you think? Are there messages for us or for other Bigfoot?
That's one thing I don't know that much about. I've had some people bring that back and bring that up to me, but I haven't had the chance to actually look into it enough to where I know anything. I don't. I couldn't tell you, to be honest.
See, I feel like those pinned arches, I hear a lot of that saying it's in the direction of water. And I think this clever, elusive creature needs a signpost to water.
Right.
And every other animal in the forest just knows how to get water, just how to get to it. You know, I don't know. They're interesting. The pinned arches are the ones that I'm really intrigued about. Why are they found like that? How does that happen? I found lots of pinned arches in places that there were no reason really for anybody to do it, but they've been deliberately pinned down.
Yeah.
Why? You know, that is a strange one.
Yeah.
I don't see that as a natural thing to happen. So
No, it's $1 million question, isn't it?
yeah, more than $1 million. So, what is it you're going to be doing? You're going somewhere. You told me soon to do a. Are you
Yeah,
talking
it's
about that now? Sorry.
a hospital, an asylum.
Yeah.
It's in the area. It's actually within driving distance. Ghost hunters from Sci-Fi have actually been there, and a couple of other ghost hunting teams have been there. I want to do my own walkthrough. I'm going to do my own thing there.
Are you doing it live? Are you just recording it?
Probably if I can, if the Wi-Fi will allow me.
Yeah, that'd be fun to do it live.
Right.
At least you've got some support, haven't you? I know they're on the other side of the screen, but
I know.
you'll have someone to, you know, cry help to if anything happens.
I was inspired by the Ghost Hunter team when they and I know a lot of their later stuff seemed to be really scripted, and it was more entertainment than anything at that point. But they did do one live, and they had people chiming in saying, "Check this out, and check that out, and check this out." And I'm like, you know, that's pretty cool. That's really cool. I would like to have that. And you know, the other night when I had my live stream, we did our, you know, that we were bantering back and forth. I was interacting, and it was great. It's fantastic. A fresh set of eyes, new ideas. Yeah, it was pretty cool.
Are you interested in doing like graveyard cemeteries and stuff like that? Would you do?
Yeah,
walkabout?
Close to me, probably about 10 miles away from me. There's a huge cemetery that I'm probably going to take a look at.
Max, because I'm in England, it's 999. Okay. It's not yeah, just in case anything happens, you know.
Yeah.
Guys, if you've got any questions for Lee, put them up in caps, please. Who's that? Did anyone have one before? So did you have any did you not cover stuff about Dogman before? Anything?
No,
no,
not heavily. No, it was mostly Bigfoot. But I'm drifting into that too. I'm broadening my horizon here, trying to connect the dots.
I think we have to be open-minded, don't we, and accept that people there's something going on. There's not just one person seeing something. Lots of people see the Dogman thing, the Bigfoot thing, this stuff. So you just can't say no to me. You know, we just have to consider it. I know some people go, no, Dogman doesn't exist, or it doesn't sound right, but none of it sounds right. None of it sounds right if you haven't got an answer to it as well.
Exactly.
Nothing makes sense, you know. So Hi, Marianne. Lee, what is your all-time scariest encounter?
All-time scariest encounter? Physical, I would say probably that that camp out at night. That night I was telling you about.
Mm.
The rifle that I had, let me explain it to you, was a 4570 government. I could go out, I could go to Africa right now and hunt Cape buffalo with it.
Okay.
I mean, it will put anything down. When I bought this rifle, the guys asked me what I was going to hunt with that. I pretty much told them anything I wanted. When I first bought it there, I'm like, I'm cool. But the moment that image and that feeling got those words popped in my mind, all that was done. There was no comfort in that cannon whatsoever. There was none. Like I said, I might as well have been carrying a twig or a spoon. It was. I was terrified. I was. I got my butt out of there quick.
So apart from the message or whatever, what was the presence for? Did you feel like it was all around you? Did you feel anything like that?
It was heavy, and I'm glad you brought that up because it was. I felt like I was surrounded, and it was very oppressive, very heavy on me, and that image popped in my head, and the voice was pretty much said, "Just get out, leave now," and I did. Like I said, I grabbed my rifle, I grabbed my phone, and I left. I got my Jeep and I hauled butt out of there. That was pretty scary. And my house, the next closest thing I had to that was the house I was living in, the one that burnt down. I woke up. I was laying on the couch, and I woke up, and I looked up, and there was a girl standing at the edge of the couch. She was dressed in Victorian dress. Looked to be probably in her mid to late teens. Young girl, and she turned around and looked at me, and then just disappeared. That was freaky.
Mm.
I mean, she was as real as you're sitting there. It was crazy. But that didn't scare me as bad as that night out there in the woods.
No, they all add up though, don't they? They all add up, these experiences that you can't figure out.
Right. I'm trying to just trying to connect the dots. I'm trying to go everything that I've had happen to me in the past, and I'm starting to look into Ron Moorhead's theory of quantum physics and vibrational theory, how everything works on a frequency. Vibrational is that how things are working? We're talking about infrasound and all this other stuff. That's a frequency.
We're all frequency, aren't we? We're all
right.
There's frequencies out there all the time.
Mm-hmm.
An example I've used before, it's like the radio stations. They're all out there. You only tune into one. It doesn't mean to say that the other ones aren't transmitting.
Right.
That's where you tuned into at the time.
That's a beautiful analogy. That's a beautiful analogy. It's a great way to look at it.
They're still all there. You were just not tuned in. So, yeah, absolutely. If radio stations can do that, there's all sorts going out there. Maybe we have to be tuned in. Maybe it's us that have to be in a certain state of mind, or I don't know, sort of grief, fear, upset, sorrow, those kind of things when you're feeling vulnerable, maybe, or slightly off guarded. I don't know. There's a lot of that about when people have that connection as well. So I don't know. An energy thing, maybe. There's just so many possibilities. Got another question here. Andy Gone Fishing. When you're in the woods, have you found any commonality in your research in finding evidence, or had that creepy feeling that the beings are around?
Yeah. The creepy feeling that they're around. I've had that a couple of times. More often than not, really. I was paced out of the woods once, and it wasn't like most people have had themselves paced out of the woods where you can hear the footsteps. There were wood knocks, and they were on a ridge above me, and it sounded like somebody was hammering plywood or hammering staples in a fence post. It was a whop, 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 and then it would stop. And I'm like, what in the world is that? And I walked a little ways, and that would move with me. It was the craziest thing. And then I'd have these feelings like I was being watched. There were a couple of places when I got really deep in the woods, probably about a mile or so in the woods, when the peacefulness of the area just went away, because I love the woods. They're like a haven for me. They're my port in a storm, really. That's where I go to just relax, regroup, and that's why I like being out there. But there have been a couple of times when I've been out there and I find a little bit of evidence here and there, a tree break, a snapped limb. It's something let me, what did that? And then I can't tell you that it was in the back of my mind either. It's something I just felt. I was in law enforcement for about 12 years, and it's the same feeling that I would get when I'd feel that something wasn't right. And, I learned a long time ago to trust my gut. So I would, if the place was a little too off kilter for me, I would turn around and back out. I'm thinking if I'm getting this vibe from, I probably should just back out. I'm not going to collect any evidence or anything else if I'm out around to do it.
Exactly. Play it safe.
Yeah.
Play it safe. Let me just go through the comments here. Fishing with Fredo, you are very welcome. I read that encounter out, I think it was quite a while ago, wasn't it? On Bigfoot Odyssey. Who have we got in as well? Hello, Jimmy Barr. Jimmy Barr knows what you're talking about. He had an experience and took a step and realized that he wasn't going to go any further. He felt that thing to go back and not push it.
Right.
It's a lot of people talk about this energy, don't they? Rick, I look familiar, do I?
Hey, Rick. Yeah, he was one. Rick was with me the other night when we were doing that live stream.
Oh, your stream, yeah.
Yeah, he was with me for a long time. I appreciate that.
No, sorry. I'm just having a look through. Any more questions, everyone? Lee, any mind speak? We've talked about mind speak. Smells. Any smells?
That's one thing I have not experienced while I've been out there. I have not experienced any smells. None. And I've expected that. Everybody, there's a blue million tails of them out there. They stink. They smell like wet dog or skunk or garbage or rotten flesh or something like that. And I have not smelled anything like that at all.
It's a weird one, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if it's a gland or something like that, because some people don't smell it, who've had encounters, visuals,
right,
and don't smell it, and others who, have really smelled it. So I don't know. Guys, go over, please, and go and check out Lee's channel. Give it a sub. I'm sure you'll like his videos. I'm just going to put another link in the comments now. And you've got a Facebook group as well.
I do. I have Facebook. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Twitter now. Parlay or Parlor.
Oh,
Yeah.
you're everywhere, pretty much. Where aren't you? Is that easier to ask?
Daily Motion, Gab, Minds. I'm not there yet, but I'm working on it.
Guys, go and check him out if you will, and show him a bit of support. I'm sure you'll like his videos and you know his the way he thinks, because he is critical thinking and open-minded, and looking for the answers like we all are. When we get them, I don't know. If will we ever get them? Who knows? I don't know. So yeah, go over to Facebook, and it's the same name, isn't it? It's
Cryptids, Myths,
Cryptids,
Mysteries.
Mysteries. Lovely. Have you ever seen any eye shine? We've got another question in.
I haven't actually seen that either.
Up close at 100 foot. Any particular reason why 100? Found any scat? That wouldn't be considered identified. It's difficult, isn't it? Scat.
Yeah, it really is.
But you test it against.
It looked more like bear than anything. It's one of those things. And I'm not collecting all that stuff.
No.
A lot of people say, "Why don't you make casts of this, that, and the other?" I said, "Why?" There's more than enough cast prints out there to fill a museum.
Yeah. This is what I'm saying, what's the next level of evidence now? I mean, even casts are just the soft evidence, aren't they? They're not really solid evidence in terms of, if you're going to be properly scientific about it.
Yeah. I mean, I try to keep a journal now where I didn't before, just to make sure everything's straight chronologically. Maybe I could pinpoint where they're going to be or whatnot, but I think they migrate. I could be wrong, but like I said, I'm learning, and the whole point of me getting back out here is to trying to raise awareness, make you think maybe there is something out there,
and not just Bigfoot, maybe
little people. I think I found some evidence of that. On top of that, there's there's the dog man, or there could be something else out in the woods too. Like, you brought up a good point. Was that Sasquatch that put that thought in my head, put that image there, that voice in my head? Is that what that was? Honestly, I don't know for sure. I'm assuming it because I heard that whoop.
This is the thing. It's very easy to connect dots. I'm not saying that isn't what happened, but because we have nothing to go off, it's so easy to connect dots and go, that fits, that feels right. It probably was. We just don't know. And I mean, the noises as well. There's so many sounds that animals make. A lot of people aren't aware of. Like, foxes have over 40 different calls. Coyotes, I guess. Even little, someone wants me to say critters. I'm going to say critters. People like me saying critters for some reason. But those small animals even making noises, unless all these different calls and sounds, something can sound like a Sasquatch, and it could be a big cat on heat. Well,
I like coyotes. I don't mean to cut you off. Coyotes. We've got them around here. They make a whoop. They whoop. Yip. Howl. Scream. Bark. So
this is the thing, isn't it? Like, and tree knocks, and hearing a knock somewhere far away. Yeah, they might tree knock. Okay, but it's so hard to know. It's not just someone out in the forest.
Yeah.
A few miles away looking for Sasquatch, thinking he's going to knock on a tree. I don't know. And this is, like you say, there's so many things that are out there that we don't know. Our local cats around here, I'm talking about small domestic cats. when they're in season, they sound like babies crying. The
Yeah.
noise that they make is, you know, I feel like someone's dumped a baby on my doorstep. It's that real. So yeah, we have to be more open to questioning ourselves more and being more realistic. You would do it in any other thing if you were trying to find something out.
Right.
You wouldn't just go with what you think works, because you know that would never work in a proper situation.
Exactly.
You would have to go through these things. Yeah. So it's all good. We're all learning. None of us have the answers, but we're all, you know, I'm like you, just trying to find out what we can and make sense to this crazy puzzle, you know,
Yeah.
with all the wrong shaped pieces, and I don't know, but it's fun. And I've enjoyed talking to you tonight.
Enjoy talking to you. Thank you for having me on here.
You're welcome. We'll definitely do it again. So guys, please go and check out Lee's channel. Go and check out my new channel, please. The link is in the description. Go and check out the Shudder, Kerry Arnold's channel, and the other channels that I put in the description there. And I'm going to be back here tomorrow night, and I'll be with Carl Gotro. He's back and he's got a lot to say. So we'll be on then. And then Anything Goes Sunday night. It's going to be me and Jason again. And who's coming on? Who's coming on? I've just completely forgotten who's coming on. Isn't that ridiculous? Of course, it's Moggy on Monster. I think he said yes. That's why, because I'm not sure if he's 100% confirmed, but I'm pretty sure he did. So Moggy will be on Sunday with Jason and me for Anything Goes, where we'll talk about anything. And I'm going to get the swear jar out. It's $10. I didn't need to bring it out for you because I knew you wouldn't say anything, but I can't control what people say, but people don't like the swearing. So I've said $10 a swear word. It goes into the kitty, goes towards the new channel. I could be rich. I could be rich soon if I pick the right guest. So
I was on my best behavior tonight because I cuss like a sailor. I'm sorry.
Well, no, I don't want to take any off you, but some, you know, I got $45 one night. You know, that they're pushing it. They're obviously rich. They're obviously rich.
No kidding.
Don't care.
That's awesome.
Thanks to everyone in the chat. Thanks to the mods. Thanks for the questions. Please hit that like button. Sub, share, subscribe. All those things that people ask you to do. If you liked it, like it. And we'll see you tomorrow night. Good night. Thanks, Lee.
Good night. Thank you.